A person falls from the top of a building, shocked. Unable to process that these are his final moments, he asks himself why he's falling from the school rooftop, and what he ever did to deserve this cruelty from those people. This was supposed to be his graduation day. Is this truly his end after all the misery he endured? He doesn't understand, but it seems this is the day of his death. However, he wishes he had actually died that day. At the city's Central University Hospital, a doctor speaks with an elderly woman, informing her that 3 months have already passed and that she should prepare for the worst. The elderly woman screams at her, demanding to know what the hell she's talking about and whether she expects her to give up on her grandson. Meanwhile, he can hear them and knows he's been misdiagnosed with a condition called a kinetic mutism, a state from which no one recovers. On another night, the grandmother stays up beside him, holding his hand with her warm, loving touch while breaking down in tears. She tells her dear Hyun that those bastards keep asking her to give up on him. She raised him after her daughter and son-in-law died. How can they ask her to do this? She begs him to give her a sign, just one sign that he's alive. Hyun tells himself to move, commanding his body to move, but there's no response. 3 months later, his younger brother visits him, sitting and crying bitterly over his brother. He confesses that he can't bear their situation any longer, explaining that those bastards who used to bully Hyun are now targeting him. He adds that their grandmother has started working at a restaurant to pay the hospital expenses, but she's badly hurt herself. He asks what he's supposed to do and says it would have been better if Hyun had died, because they wouldn't be suffering like this if he had died then. He cries more out of regret from the cruel words he just said, pleading for his brother to wake up. Hyun hears his brother's words and is aware of what's happening, telling himself that he can't even cry about his situation because his body has become a prison holding him captive. He tries to comfort himself, thinking about patience and that everything will be okay and he'll wake from this nightmare soon. 3 years pass with him still lying in bed, hearing and aware of the sounds of patients in the hospital garden but showing no reaction or movement. Neither his grandmother nor his brother has visited him for a long time. He hears the nurses talking to each other, with one of them mentioning that she heard that the grandmother of this patient died. Now, they can raise the TV volume as much as they want. Hyun is stunned by the cruelty of what he hears. A fit of fury and humiliation surges through him, unable to express the oppression and his anger. He vows that if life gave him another chance for revenge, he wouldn't wait for them to go to hell, but would make their lives hell itself. He swears he will also destroy the corrupt teachers and everyone who ruined his family. He tells himself to wait. The promise of vengeance hardens in his mind. Hyun's mind, without him realizing it, traps him in a simulation of the real world where he tries every possibility and method he might use to take revenge for himself, until he realizes that 10 years have passed and his younger brother hasn't visited him until now. He concludes that something must have happened to him too. From the intensity of the misery and oppression, his body sheds a single tear as he wishes for anyone to just end his life. Suddenly, he opens his eyes to a ray of light and finds himself looking at the windows of his old classroom while hearing the voices of his classmates in the place. He realizes he's sitting in his classroom at school. He suddenly stands up from his seat, shocked and frozen for a period, not believing himself in what he's seeing. He tries to pinch himself, but feels the pain while surprised. He notices a pen in front of him on the desk and picks it up, then stabs his leg with it to confirm whether what's happening is real or not. He feels severe pain and his leg bleeds from the stab. Finally, he confirms it. This isn't the same dream he's seen more than 1,000,000 times. This is reality. He hears a sudden loud shouting sound and looks beside him to find the bully hitting a classmate in front of the entire class. Continuing to stomp on him with his foot, he asks who the fuck he is saying to do it himself when he asks him to do something. Shivers and anger take over Hyun when he remembers this is the same day he tried to stop the bully, which was the beginning of his horrific tragedy that no one ever helped him with. His classmates in the class are just watching what's happening, and he's the only one who stands up to the bully. The bully looks behind him surprised. It's the class president himself. He wonders if he really thinks he's different from this trash. It is because he just hasn't been beaten yet. Suddenly, Hyun slaps him hard across the face, making him spit blood, while enjoying the feeling with an evil smile on his face. The story started at the beginning of the school year when the bully Park was playing a game on his phone. But because his level was weak, he got the idea to have the class nerd play it for him and level up his score. The nerd was forced under pressure to agree to avoid harassment, but found the situation escalated and started affecting his studies and life. Park even started demanding money from him. One day, he decided to stand up to him and said no, but Park beat him up in front of the entire class. Because this person was helping Hyun with his studies, Hyun couldn't bear what was happening to him and decided to intervene. But someone grabbed his hand, telling him to not do that because these lunatics will target him instead. But Hyun pulled his hand away and insisted he had to help his friend, going to stand in front of Park. From that moment on, he became the target of the bullying gang, and they hurt him daily in the most horrible ways. But in this life, Hyun intends to make things even more horrific. While Park is still grinding his teeth in anger, Hyun grabs him by the hair and slams his head mercilessly on the desk. From the force of the impact, his nerves give out. The classmates are shocked by what they're seeing, not believing it. Hyun lifts Park's head from the desk and with full force continues hitting his face mercilessly. Then, without hesitation, he delivers a powerful punch to his face that sends him back 2 steps. And before he can fall to the ground, Hyun grabs him by his clothes and slams him into the metal locker. Without catching his breath, he stomps on his face with full force, pinning his head against the metal locker while beating him without a single shred of mercy. Everything is going according to the same hellish simulation his mind trapped him in to try everything. Suddenly, a chair is thrown at him from behind. He looks back to find the bully's friends coming at him, telling him to stop. Hyun responds coldly, asking what they'll do if he doesn't stop. The gang stands amazed, wondering if this bastard has really gone crazy or what. One of them, named Minhu, is surprised that even when Hyun knows they will crush him, he still does this. The big one among them, named Shang-suk, steps forward, looking at Hyun with anger, telling him that he dies today. But suddenly, a female student screams that the teacher is coming down the hallway. The gang members tell Shang-suk to let him go. They'll do this later. He gets closer to Hyun's face and tells him that when the next class ends, he's dead. They warn him not to think about running and to look forward to what will happen. Then they leave and go to their class. During the class, while the teacher is explaining, the students whisper to each other that they can't believe what Hyun did to Park. He literally beat the shit out of him. While Park is hearing this and grinds his teeth in anger, not believing he lost consciousness from the beating Hyun gave him. He looks at Hyun and thinks to himself, Hyun always kept his boundaries, which is why he left some distance between them. But now, he's the one who crossed the line and should remember that. Park's friends in their class keep looking at the clock, waiting for the lesson to end so they can go break Hyun. They're wondering how Hyun dared to do this. Minhu asks his friend if the news has spread. His friend replies that's impossible. Minhu continues that Hyun made it easier for them then. They should just crush him the right way this time. Their big friend is still boiling with anger beside them, waiting for the lesson to end. The lesson ends in Hyun's class. Park quickly gets up, telling Hyun that he's his bitch now, but he's surprised by a flying kick that breaks his face from the force applied to it. Then Hyun grabs him by the hair, saying that he was hardly holding himself. They should continue now. Park looks at Hyun with fear, wondering what's wrong with this f***er. He isn't even trying to avoid them. At the same time, the lesson in Park's friend's class ends 2 minutes late. They get up quickly to go to Park. While walking in the hallway, they declare they'll beat this motherfucker to death. But they find students gathered in front of the classroom with signs of fear on their faces. Minhu deduces what's happening and screams at them to run quickly. As soon as they enter the classroom, they find Park being held by his clothes, drenched in blood from the beating. Hyun looks at them calmly, telling them they're very late.
I'll wipe them out like the plague. Watch out, you ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth.
After Hyun finishes, he hardly catches his breath. He can't continue, but Minhwa is still standing. Minhwa trembles with terror and fear when he finds Hyun looking at him, telling himself that this person wasn't this strong before. Why he feels like Hyun actually wants to kill him. He's alone now. Hyun approaches him slowly while he's frozen in place with fear, unable to even raise his hands to fight back. But Hyun stops as soon as he hears the teacher's voice. He's happy that the noise made someone notice and come save him, thinking to himself that Hyun is cooked now. But Hyun smiles calmly and cunningly. Someone shouts at Hyun in the teacher's room, asking Hyun if he wants to become a criminal or what. 3 of his classmates were taken by ambulance, covered in blood. The teacher is afraid the matter will spread and blame will be directed at him for his negligence. Wondering what the fuck happened to the quiet kid, he was the perfect example of a model student. Hyun responds coldly, telling the teacher there's no need to make a big deal out of this, since it's not the first time he's dealt with a school violence incident. The teacher responds angrily, asking what he means. Hyun tells him to use his skills and cover up the matter like he always does, but suddenly he receives a slap across his face. At the same time, the other teachers are just watching without any reaction, and Hyun confirms his thoughts. He didn't die just because of bullying, but also because of people like these who turn a blind eye to what they see. But that teacher shouts that there are limits to insolence. Hyun looks at him with a serious look, telling him he must stop immediately. The teacher raises his hand again, saying how dare he. But suddenly Hyun approaches and whispers in his ear, telling him to shut the fuck up or he'll be forced to disclose the bribes he receives from a specific student's parents. He knows that the teacher has a relationship with Minhwa's parents, and also does he really thinks that no one knows about his relationship with the English teacher. Hyun tells him to lower his voice when talking to him or he's going to ruin his life forever. In Hyun's previous life, when he reached his limit, he tried to get his teacher's help. But he was shocked when the teacher considered the matter as a fight between friends and just advised them to stop before anyone would get hurt. But as soon as they left, they beat him up in revenge for ratting on them. And when the teacher was passing by coincidence, he saw what was happening but played dumb and walked away. Even though Hyun knew he couldn't win this fight, he was fighting back to the best of his ability. But the matter always ended when Minhwa's parents came, making Hyun the one at fault and Minhwa the victim. They forced Hyun's grandmother to bow and apologize. He was punished alone. And during the coma, he realized that strength alone isn't enough and that he must find a solution for the parents' interference too. This despicable teacher standing before him is the first key to his plan. The teacher looks around to make sure no one heard Hyun's words, asking what nonsense he's talking about. Hyun responds that from now on, he needs to know how to speak to him properly. He knows that the teacher met Minhwa's parents through a college student and used to take care of Minhwa before he was accepted into the school, and as a reward, he receives a monthly payment from them. He's also in a relationship with the English teacher, a married woman with children. Hyun asks if he wants him to be quiet or continue talking about his disgusting life that he hasn't finished discussing yet. The teacher responds while standing humiliated before him, looking at the ground, asking what he wants him to do. Hyun replies that it's nothing new, just to do what he does every time and cover up the matter. He leaves the room confident that this filthy teacher will listen. In his previous life, when his wife discovered his cheating, she slapped him in the middle of the school, and they discovered afterward that she was from a wealthy family and most of the property was in her name. He tells himself that now he must prepare the second key of his plan, but he must do something first. Minhwa is raging inside the class, breaking chairs and cursing Hyun in front of the students to restore his reputation and scare people after what Hyun did to him. He pulls a chair and sits comfortably, thinking that this should do it. But suddenly Hyun slams the classroom door open and advances toward Minhwa, asking who the fuck is he cursing. They should complete what they started then. He delivers a very strong punch without warning that sends him flying off the chair and walks slowly toward him. Minhwa looks at him as if the angel of death is approaching. He receives a strong kick to his chin that makes him spit blood. Before he falls, Hyun grabs him by his clothes and Minhwa sees a totally psycho looking him in the eyes. Then Hyun starts hitting his face mercilessly. At the same time, the teacher is passing in the hallway and sees what's happening. Minhwa thinks to himself that he is saved, thank God, this bastard takes money from his parents. But the teacher turns his face the other way, he saw nothing. Minhwa and his parents are the reason Hyun didn't see justice in his previous life. He wants to kill him but can't do that right now for his plan to succeed. Hyun is holding him by his hair with his face scratched up from the beating, then lets him go and leaves him lying on the ground humiliated, with the whole class looking at Hyun with fear because of his cruelty. He pulls a chair and sits to catch his breath from exhaustion. He looks back at Minhoo but finds him still lying on the ground unconscious. He knows if he had only targeted his friends and left this bastard alone, he wouldn't shut up. But if he's choosing who to take revenge on, why did he live in this hell? The principal, who wants to make this school prestigious, will try to punish the perpetrator severely. Just as many witnesses saw him while he was doing this, but if he can't silence them all, he shouldn't dream about revenge. In the meeting room, there's the sound of severe shouting. This is completely unacceptable. The principal is meeting with the teachers with Hyun in front of them, discussing what they'll do with him. They all agree he must be severely punished, to the point that the English teacher suggests he be expelled from school. But the other teacher nudges her in the side to silence her. She looks at him with surprise, asking what. He lowers his voice and explains to her the disaster they're in, and that if something happens to him, both of them will be utterly ruined. He begins speaking, acknowledging that what Hyun did was severely excessive, but as the first-grade class teacher, he received numerous reports that the 3 victims were a gang of bullies who hurt many students at school, and poor Hyun couldn't bear it and ended up like this. He argues that Hyun is more of a victim than a guilty party, so if they punish him, they'll be doing something a teacher shouldn't do. The principal responds coldly, asking what's wrong with that since punishment is inevitable. They argue back and forth for a while, but in the end, the principal does what he wants and announces that a committee will be convened to discuss the punishment a week from now. And until then, Hyun is suspended from school. Hyun stands and responds confidently that's okay, he understands, and leaves them. The teacher runs out after him and walks beside him, saying he did his best and asking if Hyun knows this. Hyun replies that he knows he did the best he could, but it seems he already knew from the beginning that Park was bullying students. He reminds him to remember well that there's only one way to keep his mouth shut, which is for the teacher to do the best for him. If he doesn't, Hyun promises he'll keep his word. He leaves the teacher down and walks away, grinding his teeth in anger because this fucker was the reason for his continued suffering. He can't get rid of him because he's still useful for now. Hyun then takes his bag from the classroom and leaves the school with all the students' eyes on him as he thinks about what he'll do to put the principal in his place. In one of the neighboring districts, Hyun walks on his way home, saying how much he missed this alley and the rotten neighborhoods. They've become beautiful in his eyes now. He opens the door and enters the house, calling for his grandmother, but no one responds. He remembers that his grandmother is still working every day at this hour and his brother is still at school. He sits at the desk, telling himself there's no time for emotions now for the sake of his family. He begins sketching the first lines of his plan and promises himself that not a single person of these corrupt scum will be forgiven. Just wait, this is just his beginning. A loud shouting voice is heard inside the city police station, asking if they don't know who he is or what's his family. An officer responds, telling the elderly man to please calm down. He responds loudly asking who the fuck he's calling elderly when he's only 35 years old, and kicks the chair in front of him in anger. Of course, the police officers know him, Joe Shangboam, the eldest son of the owner of the famous construction company and the most dangerous person to deal with in the city. But now he keeps his boundaries because of the start of the succession race for the company. The police officer reviews the report in front of him, saying that he beat up 3 people and sent them to the hospital, but he is claiming that they started the fight with him. Shangboam is lost in thought about the side effects of what's happening, because his father announced that the succession race will be between him, with his high school diploma, and his brother who graduated from a prestigious university. To make matters worse, what's happening now will affect his reputation before his father and his trust in him as an heir. The officer tells him he knows he's very upset, but all of this happened because of him and they can't just leave the case like this. Shangboam rages again and slams his hand on the desk, insisting that those men hit him first, and the officer responds that yes, that's his claim, but there's no evidence for these words. He looks the other way and notices something strange, wondering why there's a child here. But suddenly Hyun points at him, telling the officer that yes sir, he came here to testify for this person, asking who he should meet with. The officer is amazed by the video Hyun has provided, while he is standing looking at the officer with all innocence. Indeed, the video shows that Shangboam is innocent and that the 3 men started the fight. The officer asks him where he got this video. Hyun says that he was passing by coincidentally and saw what happened, so he requested the black box from a car parked nearby because he knows that a minor's testimony wouldn't be sufficient. Shang Boeum is shocked by the words of this kid who suddenly appeared from nowhere with evidence of his innocence. He puts his arm around Hyun, saying it's true, how can a very handsome boy say such beautiful words? While internally he hardly believes it himself as Hyun looks at him from the side. The officer says this is undoubtedly proof of his innocence and they apologize to Mr. Shang Boeum, acknowledging they should have listened well to what he said. Suddenly Shang Boeum gets in his face telling him to listen. He doesn't know his circumstances but he remembers faces well, and from now on, he'll make sure the officer lives a truly quiet life. He should look forward to it. They leave the police station with Shang Boeum putting his hand around Hyun's shoulder, very happy, thanking him sincerely, and saying that without his help he would have been in big trouble. Shang Boeum never forgets anyone's favor and reaches into his pocket, pulls out a wad of cash and gives it to Hyun as proof of his gratitude. But he's surprised when Hyun takes it without hesitation, thinking to himself that usually children this age flatter before taking this amount of money. He is not a normal boy. Hyun suddenly stands in front of him, calling him big brother, and asks if he really thinks what happened today was just a coincidence. Shang Boeum asks what he means. He responds that he'll speak frankly, he knows what kind of man he is, and that he's currently competing against his younger brother in a succession race to inherit the largest construction company in Daesan, Hyunjin Construction. Shang Boeum asks angrily who he is. Hyun responds not to worry, explaining he doesn't think this was an accidental incident. He has evidence to prove it, asking Shang Boeum what he thinks of his claim. In truth, during Hyun's coma period, Hyunjin Construction Company was trending for a time because of the succession conflict that ended with scandals spread in the news. Hyun tells him that if he's truly grateful to give him an hour of his time and he promises it's nothing that will hurt him. He means his life, Mr. Shang Boeum. They sit in a cafe near the police station. Hyun takes out his phone and shows him the original video, explaining that he only needed the last half to prove his innocence, but he's now watching the full video. They look like just customers, and although half an hour passed, they didn't move an inch as if they were waiting for someone. And the moment Shang Boeum appeared, they started fighting with him. Since the succession race began, bad things have been happening to him one after another without stopping. After showing him the evidence, Hyun asks if he still thinks these matters are coincidence, or his brother is playing it dirty. Shang Boeum actually had suspicions but was refusing to believe this, that his well-raised younger brother would do dirty work like this. He asks why a child like him is telling him this. Hyunjin Construction Company, which was only known in rural areas, will become very famous because of his father's policy that stipulates not compromising the quality of residential buildings, unlike other companies that care only about profit. When Shang Boeum found out what his brother was doing to him, he beat his brother so severely it left him with permanent disability. Because of this, his father declared that both sons are incompetent for succession and gave the succession to someone else, a professional who can manage the company. Hyun knows he shouldn't interfere with the company's future because both brothers are evil. But now, what's right and what's wrong isn't his business. He then tells him he'll help him first to take revenge for him, and second to make him more deserving of the succession. Shang Boeum responds that this is ridiculous, he's just a kid in high school, but Hyun cuts him asking if he doesn't find this a strange thing. He knows there are people helping him, but why they keep filling his ears with sweet things, while just a high school student like him can decode his brother's actions. After a while, Shang Boeum goes outside the cafe to light his cigarette and calm his nerves. But the cafe waiter comes out telling him this area is a no-smoking zone. Shang Boeum looks at him with anger, warning not to mess with him, and tells him to go back inside or he'll destroy this cafe on their heads. Hyun sits watching what's happening, telling himself that this evil person was born with a golden spoon in his mouth, that no one in Daesan dares to mess with him because he's like a ticking bomb that can explode at any moment. But he didn't choose him for being good or anything like that. This is exactly the type of person he needs for his plan. Shang Boeum calms down and remembers his father's advice that if he doesn't have the talent, he should always keep talented people by his side. So he puts out the cigarette and enters the cafe again, sitting in front of Hyun, enthusiastically telling the little devil to tell him his plan now because he's ready. Someone receives a phone call in an office that pisses him off and he throws the phone on the ground, breaking it. Shang Sok, the younger brother of Shang Boeum, grinds his teeth, wondering how this stupid fool managed to get out of this situation. He calms himself because nothing changes, they still have the upper hand. Suddenly, the office phone rings again. As soon as he answers, he hears someone in panic calling him young master. There's a disaster. The lady found out about that matter. Shang Sok stands stunned, speechless. Hyun asks Shang Boeum that between him and his younger brother, who does he think is more deserving of the succession? He continues that of course it's his brother because he surpasses him in 3 things. First, background. He lost in this matter because while his brother was busy building relationships with prestigious families through marriage, he was doing nothing and wasting his time with useless people. The second is reputation. There's no need to explain his situation in this matter. And the last thing is capability. While he was enjoying himself with women and drinking alcohol, his brother was proving his competence. He doesn't need to be social because whatever he does will be better than what Shang Boeum will do. But from now on, they'll turn the table on him in those 3 things. Shang Boeum asks, so what's the solution for this? Hyun says they will start with the first thing, the background. Since he can't marry a woman from a prestigious family right away after all the bad reputation from fucking around all his life, they can just push him from the top to the same hellhole he is in. First, his brother must separate from his wife. As soon as they separate, his pivotal character in the background will disappear. Why don't they do this simple thing? Shang Boeum and his brother Shang Seok stand before a man in his office, tension thick in the air. The man is Go Myung-jin, their father and president of Myung-jin Construction Company. Seok keeps apologizing profusely to his father, who tells him he's a pathetic bastard and that he's already contacted his father-in-law, informing him that he'll teach Seok a lesson he won't forget before things escalate to divorce. His wife also told him she needs space, and now Seok needs to figure out how to win her back. Shang Seok tries to apologize again, but his father snaps at him, asking how many times he has to tell him that if a man follows his desires, his family will fall. If he wanted to mess around with that he should have done it while he was single, like that idiot next to him. Shang Boeum hears the scolding but stays quiet, not even daring to say a word. Their father continues with disappointment and frustration, saying it seems he failed at raising his sons. He looks at Shang Boeum and asks why he was hanging around the police station, thinking to himself that he'll probably say he's innocent as usual. Earlier at the cafe, Shang Boeum responds enthusiastically to Hyun, saying it's a perfect plan. He needs to search for his brother's mistakes and show them to their father, so he'll realize Shang Seok is tarnishing their reputation and won't trust him with the family business. But before he can continue, Hyun cuts him, saying this isn't a good idea. Hyun remembers a news report from his previous life stating that their father knew everything happening between the brothers and didn't care about the methods as long as the person could handle the responsibility, regardless of the consequences. So Hyun tells Shang Boeum he needs to do exactly as he tells him. That's why when Shang Boeum stands before his father in the office, he tells him while bowing in shame that he's sorry and will try to avoid it happening again. Whatever the reason, the eldest son of Myung-jin Construction Company could have avoided causing such problems. His brother and father are shocked by what Shang Boeum is saying. As soon as Shang Boeum confirms they've taken the bait, he continues, saying from now on he'll think before acting and asks his father to let him scold his brother in his place. But his father says that there were people who started a fight with him, and he did everything he could to avoid the conflict. Then he pats him on the shoulder and continues, saying he did well knowing how to handle the problem. He is very proud of him. Shang Boeum and his brother step outside the office. Shang Seok stands beside him, barely holding his anger at what happened. He says miserably that he doesn't know who told her about the location, but if he finds that bastard, he'll erase him completely. Shang Boeum stands there, still not comprehending what his father said, repeating the words that his father said to himself. His body starts shaking involuntarily as he continues thinking about it. His father, who is always harsh, finally acknowledged him and praised him. He clenches his fist tightly, telling himself this is how he should play the game then. Shang Boeum drives his car with Hyun sitting beside him, saying that his father praised him thanks to Hyun. He asks what he should do to become the CEO and promises to follow his instructions to the letter. Hyun tells him not to get too excited. The only thing they did was bring his brother back to the starting point regarding his background. To become president, he also needs to win the other 2 things, and he has some plans for that, but they're difficult to execute now. Currently, he should join the company as a beginner employee to learn how things work there, and he'll inform him of the next step at the appropriate time. Shang Boeum responds sarcastically, asking if he really wants him to join as a beginner employee. But he takes back his words immediately, smiling arrogantly, saying understood, he will do whatever he wants. Hyun tells him there's something else. Shang Boeum asks what it is. Hyun continues, reminding him of the conversation they had at the cafe about working together because they both have things they need from each other to achieve their goals. To help him, Shangboem promised to fulfill his wish too. Shangboem tells him to just say it, anything for him. Hyun responds that he'll get straight to the point, he needs his help with that thing. A woman gives a Will Smith slap to someone while cursing his stupidity, asking if he thinks she was giving him all that money to hear such excuses. Does she look like a joke to him? If he doesn't want to be humiliated, it's better to expel that bastard who hit her son. The woman is Minhyu's mother, and the person who got the Will Smith slap is the corrupt teacher. The teacher responds with his face to the ground, saying, "Yes, ma'am." Then she walks away and goes down, leaving him behind. The teacher screams to himself, asking what the hell they expect him to do. Right after, he meets with Hyun and tries to convince him, but Hyun refuses his solutions. The teacher tells him to be objective, saying the only solution to reduce his punishment is to apologize while humbling himself, because he can't solve it with his stubbornness. Hyun says he knows that Minhyu's mother is pressuring him, but he should think carefully. Does he prefer that his financial corruption and his cheating be exposed then? He needs to understand that if Hyun falls, he will follow, so he should find a solution for this. He walks out of the room, telling him good luck, leaving the teacher standing there frozen in fear and helplessness. The teacher enters the committee meeting room and notices the principal and Minhyu's mother talking to each other. Minhyu's mother says she'll leave it to the principal then. The principal tells her not to worry and asks if he has ever let her down before. The teacher sits thinking about what's happening, going crazy from the disaster he's in. He talks to himself, saying he's doomed. Whether his financial corruption or marital infidelity is exposed, he won't find a place to stay in Daesun, so what can he do with all the money he hid? That's when he notices someone pulling the chair next to Hyun and sitting in the spot designated for the student's guardian. He's seen this person before. He opens his phone and searches the internet, and is shocked as soon as he confirms it's the same person he saw in the red light district before. The meeting begins and the principal starts speaking first. To make them aware of what exactly happened, the perpetrator's counselor, Kim Young-shul, will explain. That's when the teacher stands up at once and shouts at the top of his voice, yelling that it's an insult to justice that the attacker is being treated as the victim. Everyone attending the session is stunned by the announcement. The principal, with clear signs of intense questioning on his face, tells him to explain what actually happened so there's no misunderstanding. The teacher starts speaking, looking in Minhyu's direction, saying, "All right, sir." He starts telling them that for a long time he's been receiving many complaints that Park's gang has been harassing students. He warned them at first to stop, but this made them go further. And a few days ago, Park was beating Lee Jong-min, and Hyun saw them and asked him to stop because they're classmates. But Park called his friends and they started beating Hyun instead. Everyone should think about it. Would they stand by with their arms folded when someone hurts them? He only wanted to help his classmate, but student Park and his group, including student Minhyu, assaulted their classmate Hyun. And so he wouldn't get beaten again, student Hyun decided to act to save himself. Then the teacher begins changing his voice tone to sadness as he addresses all those present, saying if they punish student Hyun, they'll just be scum adults. The principal is angry and unconvinced by the teacher's words, who tried to flip the scales and make Hyun the victim. He sees what Hyun did as excessive cruelty, especially since it's the first time such an incident has happened at the school, Shianol High School, where 4 students end up in the hospital. But the attending parents have already started whispering among themselves. The principal says that regardless of the reasons, violence is unacceptable, and there must be punishment so such things don't happen again. The principal starts trying to play with words in front of the parents and turns the story against Hyun, and he and Minhyu's mother exchange cunning looks. Then he asks Minhyu to speak first as the poor victim. Minhyu starts trembling and stuttering as if he's scared, playing the role of the poor oppressed victim, saying the teacher's words are all wrong. He saw Hyun hitting Park, who was already lying on the ground, and the others told him Hyun started the fight for no reason. He puts his hand on his face and starts crying while saying that when they tried to intervene to save their friend's life, Hyun raised the metal lock and started hurting everyone without discrimination. Hyun stays silent, trying to control himself. Minhyu concludes at the end he doesn't know why the teacher is making all this up about them. Hyun left after the teacher scolded him himself and came straight to hit him too in front of everyone as if he didn't care about punishment at all. He looks at Hyun from under his hand while immersed in the victim role with a weak voice, asking if after all this he's the one at fault. Minhyu's mother stands up yelling with shock and anger, telling them to look at her boy's face. She raised him with the best upbringing, yet something like this happened. She starts screaming at everyone, asking how they expect her to understand this. This happened to her son this time. Who knows what this criminal will do to other students? No one should stay silent about what happened. The parents start taking Minhyu's and his mother's side as they talk among themselves, and in the end they all tell the principal he must punish him. The principal, Minhyu, and his mother all look in Hyun's direction, and thus the stage has been set as they wanted. Minhyu's gang, who got beaten by Hyun, are in the hospital talking to each other. Shul tells them he's sure Hyun should be done by now. They all know Minhyu's mother well. A woman like her won't let what happened pass easily after seeing her son's face messed up like that. Park tells him he's right. If that bastard doesn't get expelled, he'll make him regret it and beg to forgive him, but if he gets expelled, he'll chase him to demand compensation. Shul asks them if they can get compensation. Changseok answers, of course, at least $500,000. They start building their dreams on the money they might get as compensation. Suddenly, a hand slams the table hard in the middle of the meeting. Shangboem, sitting next to Hyun, tells them with an angry tone, asking if they're all going to ignore this as if they don't know. He points at Minyu while saying, "Isn't it clear that this devil with a human face planned all this?" The principal raises his voice, asking how he dares to call a student at his school a devil. But Shangboem responds with anger and indifference. What does he want him to call a devil if not a devil? He starts explaining to all those present that he researched this group himself and found that they were harassing and stealing from other students. They're so well known that the entire school knows them. He questions why the principal and the others are trying to cover for them. Then he asks with a threatening tone if they're stupid or receiving bribes. He knows many ambulances came to the school to transport injured students, but all this was because Hyun was defending himself, and this matter needs to be properly investigated. He ends his words calmly, saying, "Let them be honest. When they were young, would they have stood by with their arms folded when oppressed by a group of thieves?" Minyu's mother screams at Shangboem, asking who the hell he's calling a thief. She stands up from her place, pointing her finger in his face, asking who the hell he is. She knows that this child has no parents at all, so who is he to speak this way? A few days earlier, when Shangboem was dropping Hyun off in the car, he asked him why he wanted him to become his guardian. He can ask for money whenever he wants. Hyun tells him, well, it's true he needs his money, but if he only wanted money, he would have chosen something simpler, like an investment. Hyun's plan is that, as an orphan, he can't face an enemy backed by parents like Minyu before he backs himself up with someone too. And the most important thing Hyun can gain from Shangboem is the most important, power. He tells Shangboem in a serious tone that he'll be honest with him. He's thinking of causing trouble, not just ordinary troubles between students at school, but massive ones with legal consequences, the lightest being prison. He just needs him to help him every time he causes a disaster, nothing more. Shangboem responds with confidence, asking if that's it. He shouldn't worry at all, he has good experience in such matters. Whatever he does, no one will be able to touch him. Minyu's mother stays silent, waiting for him to speak. Shangboem throws his card on the desk while saying he's Hyun's special guardian. He stands calmly, adding that he's also the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction Company, while looking into her eyes. Everyone is stunned and some are afraid to speak, looking at Shangboem in silence. He takes Hyun under his arm, asking if they don't know who they're talking about. Hyun is like a younger brother to him. He isn't the type who causes problems, but when he heard he was summoned to a consultation session, he left all his work and came quickly. Cheonil High School is a prestigious institution. He was hoping Hyun would attend the school without problems, which is why he was planning to support the high school under the name of Myeongjin Construction Company, but what happened made him reconsider. He didn't expect the school to be this low. Minyu's mother tries to interrupt him, saying if he's threatening them, but he cuts her off again with a tone of disgust, saying he's merely stating the facts. He starts addressing everyone, saying shouldn't the counselors instill good morals in students? If that's the case, why would Hyun, when he came to defend his classmate, be subject to punishment while all the persecution he suffered is ignored? Where were they when he was being beaten and insulted? Is it because he's poor and they're taking money from the bullies' parents so they ignore him? If this is what's happening, he won't stay silent and will break this school over their heads. Minyu and anyone on his side won't be able to cross the entire city of Daesan again. They can consider this a threat, but this is the true meaning of justice. The principal is shocked by Hyun's relationship, who he thought was an orphan, with Shangboem, the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction Company and Hyun's guardian. This means losing the opportunity to build relationships with a huge company with political influence and possible expulsion from Daesan City for ignoring Shangboem's warning. He quickly recalculates. If he stands on Hyun's side, he'll ensure enhanced relationships, secure funding for the school, and achieve his goal of making the school the best in the country, despite the possibility of being described as a traitor. The principal starts speaking, saying he actually heard something like this. There was a group of students attacking their other classmates, and young Minyu, if he remembers correctly, was actually their leader. Minyu's mother shouts, addressing the principal. He responds with firmness and calm, saying it's not her turn to speak. He continues, he's not passing the blame to someone else, he's just telling the truth. The consultation committee is a place to make judgments based on agreed-upon facts. Hyun is one of the top students, and what he did surely has a reason. They need to hear what he has to say. The public opinion starts shifting again. Minyu's mother looks right and left, shocked by the betrayal. Hyun thinks to himself, finally asked for his testimony. When he wasn't backed up, no one cared to listen to him. If someone had listened to him in his previous life, he wouldn't have died that terrible death. Hyun speaks, saying he reported to many teachers about Park's gang, but they either did not believe him or said they would take action, and the most they did was a simple reprimand. And this made them go further in their atrocious deeds. He asks everyone why he's the one sitting here. Is it just because he hit them once, or is it because he went far? No, it's because of them, the adults who thought he was powerless, and warns everyone in the room right now if a definitive punishment isn't delivered, he will make sure that no one even dares to step again in Daesun. Minyu's mother screams that she won't allow it. Her son will never be held accountable for this. She takes out her phone and calls her husband to come help her, telling him the consultation committee for Minyu's incident wants to frame their son. Because Hyun's guardian is the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction Company, they forgot everything they did for them. Her husband responds, asking what she's saying. Shangboam is the perpetrator's guardian. How can she speak arrogantly in front of him? Doesn't she know who he is and what he can do? He orders her to come back quickly and let Minyu bear the consequences for his actions and hangs up on her. She becomes helpless from her husband's words and freezes in place without doing anything. That night, Hyun lies on his bed thinking about what happened in the morning. He was punished with just 100 hours of community service, but Minyu and the rest of his group were expelled from school. Also, after the session ended, outside the meeting room, Minyu tried to hit Hyun, but his mother stopped him midway. Hyun tells him to get on his knees and beg. Minyu yells, why should he do that since he's already expelled? Hyun sarcastically tells him to ask his mother if he needs to do it or not. Minyu looks at his mother, but she turns her face away from him, and Hyun gets close to his ear and tells him who knows what he might do beyond just expelling him from school. His mother orders him to get on his knees and beg quickly. Minyu is shocked by what his mother is saying, but in the end he does it. On his knees he begs Hyun, saying he won't do it again. Hyun remembers when his grandmother was in the same position, being manipulated by Minyu's mother. Hyun says sarcastically, wondering what he should do. He doesn't like his begging. Then his tone shifts terrifyingly, telling him to beg better, because from here on his future will be nothing but misery. After recalling all that, Hyun feels a little relieved. That's when he heard the notifications on his phone. Park is texting him, begging, saying he desperately needs to meet him. Now that the easy part of his plan is done, the next step is catching the main perpetrator and controller from the shadows. Park is waiting in the garden at night when he sees someone walking his way. Park nervously thanks him for actually coming. Hyun tells him to skip the small talk and get straight to the point. Park tilts his head and says that harassing students and attempting to hit him was his mistake due to his immaturity, and the week he spent in the hospital made him agree to any decision the committee would make. He promises he won't do it again. He needs Hyun to forgive him and give him a second chance. He doesn't want to be expelled like Minyu. Hyun knows he was surprised by the expulsion decision. Although they're predators in front of students, they're only 17 years old, just high school students with no stable life, and no place will accept them in Daesun. Park continues, saying what he's going to say might cause problems, but someone ordered them to do this to Hyun. That person is, but Hyun interrupts him, saying he knows this. Park is shocked by these words. In Hyun's previous life, another student committed suicide after him because of bullying, and left a note exposing an organization called the Golden Circle. Wealthy families established this organization to ensure their children only earned high grades. They employed bullies and teachers to harass any smart student trying to excel over them. The members were exposed, but the matter was covered up afterward, which is why they couldn't reach the identities of the core members. Hyun's entire plan revolves step by step around reaching these people and infiltrating their organization to take revenge on each one of them without exception. He tells Park it's definitely the Golden Circle, but there's something strange. It originally exists in Seoul, it can't reach Daesun, and asks Parks who employed him with them. Park stays silent for a moment, then says it's Shin Young-min. Hyun knows this guy Shin Young-min, a third-year student who controls the entire school. He hadn't imagined he was a member of the Golden Circle. He could bring down the organization using him, but he won't easily reveal what he knows because he's powerful enough that he'll become an MMA fighter in the future. He must make preparations to erase this bright future waiting for him first, no matter what the cost. But that won't be enough. This dude was benefiting from all the hell he had lived through in his previous life. Just to make some money, he called the Golden Circle here. He will make sure they taste different layers of hell that even the Golden Circle won't save them. He grabs Park by his clothes and tells him with hatred that if he wants his forgiveness, he'll show him right now what will happen when they meet. And then he starts raining powerful blows on Park's face. In Hyun's previous life, Park was a father with a daughter he loved very much, and Minyu and the others were so successful that he couldn't believe how successful they were and how well they were living. He'll never allow them to live such a life and will make sure they all suffer like him forever. Later at school, students are talking about what happened, not believing Hyun could commit all these acts. Suddenly, Hyun opens the classroom door, then enters and sits at his desk. His friend whom he defended comes to thank him, then tells him he heard about what happened to Park and the others. It was all thanks to him. If he needs anything, just let him know. Silence prevails in the classroom with all eyes on him. Hyun asks why someone who didn't want to stand on his side at the session is now trying to get close to him. He was even afraid to testify before and now comes to thank him. Hyun won't care about anything that happens to him from now on and tells him to get away from his face. On the school roof, two students are discussing something. One of them asks the other what he'll do now, saying Park was expelled along with the others and their plan failed. The other says what a waste. They went to fight with him only to find the eldest son of Myeongjin Construction backing him. How did things take this turn? No one in Daesun now can get close to Hyun. This dude is Shin Youngmin. His friend asks him if he's giving up. Youngmin responds no, the situation is tense now but not too much. The high school level is clear, isn't it? They have a chance to make more money. They can collect tens of thousands from the high school alone. They should thank these people for the opportunity they gave them. Then he orders him to look for the head of the freshman and bring him to the roof. While the lesson is going on, Hyun sits rearranging the details for the next step. To be able to bring down the golden circle, he needs to excel in studies because they target the top students, and thus, he'll be an obstacle in front of one of their clients in this school. The real criminal who wants to get rid of him to take his place is hiding in the school. He already has some suspicions, but needs to reach definitive evidence. For this reason, he needs to prepare well to know who this person that envies him this much to the level that he paid the golden circle to do the job. After the school day ends, Hyun stops in front of a restaurant, but he's here for that club in top of it. The owner of that club is Young Do-seol, the first Korean MMA fighter to become a UFC world champion. Once Hyun enters the place, he notices that it's as shabby as he had expected. He hears a voice greeting him, then finds someone asking if he's here to register. This person in front of him is a cornerstone for the plan. Hyun replies to him, yes, he wants to become good at fighting. At the same time, someone comes to the rooftop where Youngmin and his companion are. Youngmin asks him if he's Gino, the freshman. He comments about his huge physical build and says that he heard he used to go to a wrestling academy. Then he puts his hand on his face and tells him that he wants to cripple another freshman named Hyunsung, to the point where he doesn't want to live anymore. At the club, the captain tells Hyun he must be a high school student, saying he came to the right place. He'll give him information about their club, physical education equipment, stress removal, and even improving the diet. Their goal is to make their customers happy. Monthly fees are 150,000 won, not too expensive. He'll teach him everything from scratch. Hyun sits thinking it's difficult to recognize him at first glance now, but he's sure it's Young Do-seol, former UFC champion. Do-seol asks him what motivated him to come to the club. Hyun says he wants to be good at fighting, good enough to beat all the bullies to the point that no one can recognize them at first glance. Do-seol's expression darkens for a while. He then tells him the club isn't a place to teach him this. If he's coming just to beat someone, he won't accept him. Just a little workout and no one will be able to bully him. Then he suggests that Hyun start training to just build a good body. Even so, Young Do-seol is the first Korean UFC champion, but he's running a small sports club in this small town. The reason is that after a title defense match, it turned out there were anabolic steroids in his blood. He accepted it and didn't try to justify it, which is why his athletic career ended. But Hyun doesn't care about that past. What really caught his attention was when he was in his coma in his previous life. There was another fighter who also won the UFC, Kim Moo-yeol. He became famous for becoming the best fighter after starting his athletic career a few years later, but he admitted something shocking, that he's not very talented, but the main reason is Young Do-seol's training. So training under him will make Hyun an extraordinary fighter. Hyun tells Do-seol that when he was a professional fighter, he did anything to defeat his opponents, right? He's also doing his best to reach his goal, so where's the problem? Do-seol responds with a tone full of regret, saying this happened because he was a fool. If he can go back in time, he won't repeat his mistake again. He regretted it for a long time, and if he does that, his end will be like his. That's why he should leave. He can't accept him. Hyun tells him 100 million won. He'll give him 100 million won. He knows he needs the money right now. If Do-seol promises to teach him, he'll send him the money within a day. He'll pay him in advance, so if he quits halfway, he won't lose anything. Side effects of the drug, society stigma, and even losing the chance to ever fight in the ring again. Hyun asks why, even when Do-seol knew about these possible outcomes, he chose the drug. All that occurred is a result of his choice. It's the same for him. Just like Do-seol did and took the drug, he's also desperate and will do anything to achieve his goal. That's why he needs an instructor to help him stay on the right path. Do-seol says he will never let him use drugs. He already made that mistake. He can't let a young student like him do the same. He agrees to help him only by teaching. But before Hyun expresses his excitement, Do-seol adds a condition. He tells Hyun to come to the ring. If he can endure a round against him, he will acknowledge his determination and accept the offer. After a while, they enter the ring. Duxial wears his gloves while saying to Hyun that he met many people like him before, successful students who didn't want to be beaten again at school. Hyun's goal and determination are just words and won't be of any use when he faces the harsh reality of fighting. He sets the timer to start the round and tells Hyun with no restrictions to withstand just one round, 3 minutes. If he proves his will, he will train him as much as he pays him, and asks if he is still determined. Hyun responds yes, he'll do it. Duxial then tells him to get ready. For Duxial, even Hyun's posture is quite crappy, but he doesn't seem scared. He will see if he stays the same after the first hit or not. He decides to test him first and moves fast toward him to deliver a powerful blow. Hyun thinks that he has blocked it, but the blow penetrates through his hand to his face, making him spit blood and slams him into the ring fence. Just as Hyun tries to gather himself, Duxial tells him to get up. It has been only 10 seconds. Hyun stands enduring it with his face bleeding. Duxial raises his hand again, then he lands several blows, but Hyun defends against them. What a crazy power and speed. He'll pass out if one punch reaches him. Duxial stops and Hyun wonders what happened. Just then Duxial kicks his left ankle, crashing him to the floor, screaming from the intense pain. Duxial tells him that even if it's too late, it will be better to stop. But Hyun grits his teeth and gathers force in his legs and stands up again, saying that the 3 minutes aren't over yet. It's 2 minutes and 4 seconds, but Hyun is still standing, defending against Duxial's blows with his arms, one after another. At this rate, his stamina will deplete faster. He should pick up some momentum, even if it's a tiny bit. He tries to land a punch, but Duxial lowers his body, dodging it. Then Hyun realizes that this wasn't the smartest move when Duxial's fist lands under his chin, knocking him to the floor instantly. 1 minute passed, it's over now. Duxial is surprised that Hyun withstood for quite some time. Even so, he was going easy on him so that his wounds wouldn't take much time to heal. He turns the other way to leave the ring, saying to himself that he can't sell his self-esteem to a bastard who can't even endure this much. Hyun should stay down there, or things will get horrible for him. Just then he hears a hand catching the fence, and Hyun saying, "Don't leave, it's not over yet." Duxial looks back, amazed. Even some pros can't stand this hit. But once he sees the look in Hyun's eyes, he knows that he must stop this kid before he crosses the line one day. He says that this is where his consideration ends, and starts attacking Hyun, landing several punches. Then he suddenly stops again. Hyun knows now that he's coming for his legs and strengthens them instantly. But Duxial delivers a liver shot, extremely painful, and wipes all the strength in Hyun's body. Hyun can't stand again, and Duxial tells him that 1 minute and 30 seconds left, but if he doesn't stand in 15 seconds, the fight is over. Hyun trembles at these words. He's already trying to get up, but his body won't listen. Whenever he attempts to stand, he falls again. Duxial did hit him a solid shot. The pain itself is something that willpower can't overcome alone. Hyun starts screaming at his body to stand. He has been waiting for this moment. He have been praying for it for 10 years in a coma. He have been praying for someone to kill him too, but can't take that one hit. He needs to stand. He must do it. He can't allow history to repeat itself. He slowly stands again, saying to himself that until he rips those bastards to shreds, he can't fall down. Duxial can't believe his eyes. That punch just now is something even professional fighters struggle to recover from. Just what kind of life is this kid living? If a person like him gains the power he needs, his life will spiral. He must save him from himself. He will end him right here. Duxial runs towards Hyun, and before he can protect his face, the blow slams him, almost knocking him off again. But Hyun orders himself to endure it. He must endure it no matter what. But Duxial won't let him be. His fists keep hitting Hyun's face one after another non-stop, but Hyun is still standing, refusing to fall again. Duxial decides to end it now and punches his guts, slamming him to the fence again. After it comes the finishing punch, but Hyun doesn't close his eyes. Suddenly the timer rings, time is over. Duxial stops at the last moment. He takes off the gloves while cursing it. He didn't see this coming. This damn bastard is so determined. He tells Hyun that the hospital is closed now, so he should go there tomorrow, but he must not let them know who did this to him. He leaves him and goes out of the ring, asking him to follow him. He'll give him his bank account information. What he doesn't realize is, Hyun had already passed away while still standing. That night, Hyun returns home bruised and hurting everywhere in his body. His grandmother is shocked when she sees him like this and screams what happened. She starts trembling and tears start forming in her eyes, asking who did this to her dear kid. She just wants to know who, and she'll take care of it. Hyun responds that it's nothing, Grandma. His grandmother replies that no, it can't be normal. At the same moment, Young Duxial sits with his back against the ring fence, drinking alone. A few days ago, a member of an underground fighting tournament proposed an offer that they would pay Young Duxial a generous amount of money if he used steroids again to join a match in their competition to entertain the public. If it weren't for that kid, he would have accepted that deal. He picks up his phone and texts someone, refusing the offer. Then he leans forward, saying that now he has to train a kid to become a fighting machine. He's really the worst.
If anyone is interested in the story, let me know in the comments. I will do it for you.